Hello, everybody, and welcome to another My Music. I'm Graham Cofe, and sitting opposite me in a far-flung studio somewhere in the UK is Sophie Rose. Where are you?
I'm in Scotland right now. West Coast.
Scotland.
Yeah.
I've heard from my fellow worker who I do some work for, who is just north of Glasgow, that it's been raining there all morning as well. Has it been raining with you? And is
No,
it brightened up now?
it's really sunny. I mean, I think there was a slight bit of rain here, but
Oh,
the west it's right by the sea where I am, a little tiny little village on the seaside.
right.
But there was
And
I looked over the sea today and saw a big rainbow. So I was like, oh, and then like, oh, does that mean the rain is going to come across the sea?
sorry, which coast are you on?
So I'm on the sort of southwest coast.
Southwest coast of
It's like
Scotland.
these little cluster of villages along the
Right,
coast called,
right on the coast. Right on the
yeah,
right.
yeah.
We would have an interview now with Sophie Rose, but I'm about to get on the plane and go up and visit because that just sounds absolutely idyllic. So whilst I do that, you watch this.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
There you go, the wonderful people from Analog Trash there. I love the sea, Sophie. Is the sea quite inspirational for you as a kind of backdrop, as a place to go and just marvel at how big everything is and how small you are?
Yeah, yeah, the expansiveness, I think, is like, especially if you're sort of, I think in the UK and a lot of places, especially down in the south and all the cities, it can get very energetically cramped, and you just everyone's a bit sort of like at each other. I feel like a lot as well, so it's nice to just come out and breathe. I actually lived in this village for about 2 years, and I wrote more in that time than I probably ever had. I sort of spent a couple winters here and would just be frantically writing, just put like pieces of paper all over the floor and loads of poems.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
Um, South Gloucestershire.
Right.
Yeah, so I
That's
grew
a
up
bit
in
different.
Bristol in a little town
Yeah.
outside, just in South Gloucestershire. Yeah.
Which is not a nasty part of the country by any stretch of imagination, and that has a most glorious service station, if not a little bit overpriced now. If any of you are going up and down the motorway travelling to gigs, it's a great place to stop. And
Is that Lee Delamere? Is it that one?
no, there's now Gloucester services.
Oh, is it like the farm shoppy one?
It's the farm
Yeah,
shoppy
posh
one,
one. Yeah.
the posh one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very nice, as I say. Yeah, it's very nice. I'll mention it in a nice way because then maybe at some stage people might give me a discount if I go there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
there is nice like spots like Gloucester, and there are, it's like quite like, it probably invokes sometimes the idea of like these nice little farm shops and these sort of well-to-do villages and stuff. I'm from Yate, which isn't
Yate, yeah, I
like
know
that.
Yate.
It's proper, it's just like a working town, and
Well, Yate. Sorry, and we are going off on a tangent, and I
oh
said
yeah,
we
I
would,
happen
but
fast.
this is great. Yate, I've been to several times because I had a client in Yate called Ergo Chair, who are
Oh right.
on the business park there, and yeah, so it's one of the and they are one of the world's leading manufacturers of ergonomic seating, and
Oh,
it comes from Yate.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, a few things come from Yate. Well, a lot of people like to rumour that Banksy came from Yate, and any Bristolian that you speak to would absolutely hate you for that. So I'll keep that rumour alive because it makes me laugh how a lot of people, anyone from sort of like suburban towns that are very directly next to the city centre, are like, if you're from Yate, you're not from Bristol. But if you grow up in Yate, I don't know whether it's changed, maybe it's slowly changed, but growing up in Yate in the 90s and stuff, everyone would say, "Oh, we're going into town today," and they'd mean into the city centre. Like
Yeah.
we're in the town in Yate, but we're so in your head you grow up thinking you're Bristolian, you live in Bristol. You know, it's weird to get older, and then there's this like really odd obsession with everybody being like, "You're not from Bristol if you're from Yate," and all this stuff. It's like it's a grip, like. But yeah, it's just a weird little. It's a funny little town. It's a bit of a fishbowl, you know. Like there's like sort of, it's got
Yeah.
everything in it that people need, I think, and it,
What,
they
what
sort
was
of.
that? What was that like though, in terms of music? Because I mean, I can't imagine Yates got much of a. I could be wrong, right? But I can't imagine Yates got much of a music scene per se. Whereas Bristol
No,
obviously has.
yeah.
Um, so, growing up, were you exposed to a lot of music and
Um, I didn't know any. I didn't grow up around any musicians or artists or writers or anything like that. You know, we're from a very sort of very working class, generationally working class families. You know, my mum's a carer. My granddad had a bread round. My gran worked in care as well, and my stepdad works in like has always been like in the British Steel, in like
right?
proper proper.
Steel and care,
Yeah, yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah. So it wasn't. I was sort of the weird kid, really, a little bit. My dad's a builder, and so I got into painting and decorating. I used to go to work with him all the time, and it was like, you know, learn a trade, learn a trade, learn a trade. So I learned painting and decorating, and I always sort of that my mum had one friend who owned a guitar and could play a few chords, and she taught me my first chords, and she was like my beacon of hope, you know, because I learned quite young. I had this sort of like I realized what I wanted to do, and it was to be a singer songwriter. And it's sort of like I remember it landing with me, and I felt so despairing because I thought there there is no pathway, that I couldn't find a pathway, and I didn't for a long time, to be honest. You know, it's something I'm very 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 passionate about now.
yeah.
It's that reality, and you know, you can
Is
have.
it are any of your relatives in you in terms of like, and which side does it fall on? Like the caring side or the carer side? It, yeah. I mean, like steel and stuff. I mean that's typically been sort of associated with heavy metal and rock, isn't it, and whatever else. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they sort of. I guess, yeah, I've worked in some care homes and stuff as well, and I take my guitar in, and you know, country music especially is
you
definitely
didn't
love.
go down to London yesterday when they were all protesting outside Parliament for
No,
Care Providers Unite, and
I was totally out of the loop of that. I didn't even know that was happening.
yeah, they've all been protesting about the state of pay for carers, which of course is tragically crap.
Well, but the privatization of the care industry has caused a whole new world of problems, hasn't it? You know, I mean, the whole thing is, yeah, that's a whole other big tangent we got. I'm very very passionate, you know, about it. And my mum, she worked, you know, when I was a kid, um, my parents split up very very young, and my mum was a kitchen domestic in a care home, and she would ride a bike to work, take us to school, ride a bike to work, and you know, she through my lifetime she worked all the way up and had all these different qualifications until she became like a managed lots of different care homes, and she worked for the council for a lot of years, and she was
Fantastic.
when they started kind of closing them down because it all went into privatization, they send her in to close down the homes, and she ran a dementia home for quite a long time, you know, and it to experience, to observe, you know, someone working in all those different levels of
Yeah,
care and what it takes of
yeah.
them, like what they
That
have.
must have had quite a profound effect on you. I mean, especially when she's tasked with doing a difficult job like that, and she must have come home quite emotionally wrecked sometimes from that.
Mm.
Yeah. Do,
Yeah,
do you do you
she
feel
give
that
her.
still sort of seeps out in your music? Because I mean, what you experienced as a child in terms of what your parents go through and stuff, you probably are a sponge to that.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, very, very slow. I'm very slowly finding my voice around it all. it was quite chaotic. There was a lot of things that happened, you know, and just a lot of everyone trying to muddle through and everyone doing the best they can with not necessarily the skills or resources to, you know, and you're just trying to sort of fit in as a kid. You know, I was writing really strange poetry from a very, very young age, and I just didn't fit in. I was this kind of, you know, it was always like, oh, she's been here before, she's different, you know, but it was just a bit of a sort of, no one really knew what to do with anything like with that. So it just was a lot of years of me trying to find ways to fit in, which was like compressing, you know, and it,
Yeah.
and there was, yeah, my granddad was my sort of kindred spirit, and he died when I was very young, and I saw him. It was a lot of sort of little traumas and stuff, and it was all a little bit, you know. And I don't mean to talk about it in a way to disrespect my family at all. It's just everyone did the best they can, but there was a lot of stuff which led to me being quite an unstable young person.
Yeah.
And
Well, it sounds like you've got your own folk story there.
yeah, yeah. I've got I've got you know, a very long career's worth of lyrics to write and things to, you know, just layers to unpeel and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
it took me a long time to find my way, and a lot of therapy. So yeah, it's been a.
But you're in how do you feel as of today? You in a fairly good place with everything today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 7 years. I've done 7 years of therapy. I don't really have any intention to stop doing therapy, and you know, I'm sober. I wouldn't say I'm magic. Everything's fine now because of that, because it's constant work. You know, if you that sort of fundamental stability that some people do get ingrained and others don't. So it's to learn how to sort of invent your own, and it takes a long time for that to really start to become a foundation.
But you have your writing.
Yeah, you know, so it's, and you know, you throw in pursuing a music career, because I couldn't possibly do. I go, right, okay, cool, yeah, right, let's get this show on the road. And you know, that's a very it's a, you know, constant. It's not necessarily, it's a big gamble, isn't it? And it's not necessarily something that is offering you much financial security.
True. But you can see that you can see how invested in what you write you are as a singer when you sing, because you can see the head go down and the voice actually just take you straight to the emotional place when you sing.
Yeah,
Which you don't always get with singers, because you know, and do you find, like, especially when you watch some younger singers and they're trying to hone themselves to be great for social media and be very pop and whatever, do you sometimes have a sense of, yeah, but I just don't buy into that, I just don't buy into what you're trying to purvey there? I mean, they may have written it from a great place, but it just doesn't.
Yeah, but I think that it's a bit of a rite of passage, to be honest. I think it's part of your evolution as for figuring yourself out. And I've done it, you know, when I came I turned 30 in 2020, and it was kind of like, I was in Los Angeles when COVID hit. So I had this whole sort of like everyone had a reality shifting experience in 2020,
Didn't they just?
right? And mine sort of led to this very sort of, I have to really kind of come out and pursue this now in a very more kind of external extrovert way. So and country kind of kicked a massive door down that was a huge block, I think, for a long time, and stepping into that world. So I released my EP, which, listening back to, I find is a very and even at the time of writing it, I felt like there was a real sort of healing my inner child energy within that. You know, there was certain, like, the cage, I feel, is like, if I listen to that now, it's like my 10-year-old self being given permission to write a song, you know.
Yeah.
So and it's very kind of more country pop, I guess, and I feel like I've naturally sort of evolved to a slightly different area, and so you've got to give
So
yourself
you're slowly catching up with yourself.
100%, yeah, and you've got to give yourself that grace, I think, to just do that. And obviously, artists have been doing that for forever. It's just that it wasn't all documented on social media as a little, like, you know. And then you feel like if you remove something, there's this weird culture around, like, oh look, they deleted it, and all this like stupid stuff. You're like, oh my god, just do what you want, delete what you want, put up what you want, trial and error, carry on your way. And if people are going to sit and, you know, it's all the judgment is just, the level of judgment of humans now is absolute insanity. You know, it's like, so you've just got to just do your thing. You know, you might. Why
do you think that is, by the way? Why do you think that people? Why do you think?
I think it's just fear. I think we're all operating.
I think it's fear. I think people judge so that. I think they try and get in first and judge so that they won't be judged.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, you know, to personally, if I'm being in a particularly judgmental headspace, when I actually give myself a moment to breathe and unpack that, it's usually deriving from a fear, that I've got a fear going on and I've avoided it, and now I'm projecting and externalizing and doing all that drama that we do, which is such a waste of our time, but you know, we do it. So yeah.
I kind of get through that by pursuing judgment. I want people to judge me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, right, I'm gonna like bring it on, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I just feel like if maybe it's my age, maybe it's I've just got to that age as well, and therefore I don't really give a damn. But I just feel like. My massive thing is that I think people make too many assumptions about other people, and we're dreadful communicators these days, etc. But I just feel like one of the things that I dislike online and on social media and whatever is kind of people trying to sanitize their own feed and what they're putting out, etc. by, you know, blocking anybody that does have a difference of opinion with them and whatever. And I just go out there I say to people, I want you to argue with me. I want you to have a difference of opinion. I want to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to be proved wrong.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's being able to, I think that being able to, I think especially Britain though, we are obsessed with like, oh my God, no confrontation, no confrontation, no confrontation. You know, like get back in your little box and I'll be in my box and we'll sweep it under the rug and it'll all be fine.
No, let's have it.
It's like, then if you are someone, you know, in therapy, I've had to work through a lot of inner conflict with myself, you know, and I've had to confront myself in really brutal ways. There's a lot, you know, you go through that like serious accountability stuff, which is not fun. No one's giving you a hug. You're certainly not giving yourself a hug. You know, you have to do that. But I think I'm not afraid to work through conflict with somebody, and I'm certainly not going out trying to pick a fight with people, because I don't want that. You know, I don't want horrible things. I've had plenty enough horrible things. I don't need more horrible things. I don't want anyone else to feel anything horrible. But conflict naturally arises, a very natural part of life. And, you know, to be able to work through conflict, I think, is how we get to peace. But we're also afraid to work through it. We just we don't evolve past it. And I think it's a massive shame, you know, where if you could just trying to stay vulnerable, trying to stay vulnerable in a communication that isn't, you know, that isn't necessarily happy and agreeable and joyful. It's actually, no, this is a difference. Let's see if we can hold space for each other and figure out how to just both leave this feeling seen and heard. That's really all it is.
And do you know what? Great advice for anyone that's out there that's listening. If you get into those situations online, on social media or whatever else, say that. Just say, look, you know, not, oh, let's agree to disagree, because that's an awful line. Say we have opposing views. I hear you, you hear me, and tell them that you love them, because that really gets them every time.
Yeah, stay with love as much as you can. And and this isn't me like, oh, I'm a highly enlightened blah blah blah, because I get it wrong all the time, but it's trying to endeavor to stay with love and try and stay, but also protect yourself.
Yeah.
But also I think, in conflict it's good to try and stay with the idea of, okay, like I sentences. I'm advocating for myself here. I'm being accountable for me. And try and stay with that rather than you did this, you this, you this. It's trying to go, well, let me hold my area. Let me hold accountability for this and just try and navigate with you through that. But I think people get very well, you, and yeah, but I think you just
let me ask you a little bit about your listening habits. Who was the first person you listened to as an artist that gave you permission to be you as an artist?
Oh, that gave me permission.
That you listened to and you thought, I now understand that I have permission to be me.
It's either there's three people popping up in my head, and it's Stevie Nicks, Alanis Morissette, and Pink.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Does it?
Absolutely. Because they're all quite unapologetic with their lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was that about them, was it? It was the fact that you heard heart on sleeve truths coming out, and
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't.
I mean, also in the vocal delivery as well. You hear the pain as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also Tracy Chapman as well. Actually, I have to definitely include her in that line.
Yeah.
Women. Yeah. I think as a kid, Tracy Chapman and Alanis Morissette I had this very personal, world listening to their music. And I think, with Alanis, it's just, with Tracy is all of it. It's the raw honesty, just this is my voice. This is my story. These are the stories I'm sharing. And this is the way, and there's a vulnerability, but a power and a lot of love. Alanis is such a poet, and she's very spoken wordy. She's the rhythmic play of her lyricism.
It sounds like you're overhearing a telephone conversation to a friend, always, just moaning your head off about whichever man has done this.
Yeah, well, Not the Doctor is actually that song has been almost part of my internal therapy through life, where there's been times where I've sort of gotten into a bit of a situation where I've maybe been a bit of a nurturer, and then and suddenly then my cup's a little bit empty, and it's that kind of visiting hours of 9 to 5. I show up at 6:10, right? It just. I don't know how to verbalize how I feel about them. And then Pink, her album Misunderstood.
Yep.
When that came out, and I think I must have been about 12 or something. And I don't know how. I can go to if I think about Alanis Morissette and Pink, there's a very specific time, and it was a room I had at my dad's house, so I stay there a lot of that time, and I had a little CD player. I can go to that room, and when I think about that album, when Pink's Misunderstood and Alanis Morissette Jagged Little Pill, nicked off my stepmom. Well, they lent it to me, and then that was it.
Do you miss that time in music? I mean, maybe you're still completely there. I mean, I still buy physical or get given, thankfully, huge amounts of physical music, and I still love being able to choose to put something on and actually head off in there for 2 hours and then come back.
Yeah.
But we are now. That still doesn't seem like a long time ago, but we're now in a space where like people just call up 20 seconds of stuff and then go, oh no, not that 20 seconds. And do you miss that time in music where you had to commit?
I think what I miss about it, like I always wished I used to do like a radio show for that. It was called Sophie's Magic School Bus, and I did this little sound effects at the beginning as if you were getting on this like psychedelic bus, and then we were going back to the 60s.
You know, we've got to make this into a podcast, Sophie.
I'll send you the recordings. But yeah, and I absolutely loved. The 60s was really a time I wish I was alive in music, and like that sort of tip into the 70s. And then, 90s, I would have loved to have been a sort of teenager, an older teenager in the 90s with, in America. I mean, I always wish I grew up in America, but, just like actually actively in music and in that scene. And like, especially in like the kind of more like alt country. Shania Twain was a big part of my childhood as well. My mum had the come on tape, and she used to play it in the car, and me and my mum and my sister would sing along. But I think the thing that I find a bit sad about, I think like because there wasn't social media, we weren't quite in the boom of the digital era. I feel like when there was a new I think every decade brought about these new alchemies of music, and I think it will forevermore. But in the night, you can really clearly see where these alchemies were and what sort of was springing out. And I think the thing that I find now, how I feel a little bit, is that those alchemies get a bit suffocated by this desire to be this thing that is known to work and make money. I think like capitalism is maybe suffocating the alchemy of art to evolve and go into something new. But it might not be the case. It might just be that we're in it. I think country music's having a new, it's having this like whole new wave and this resurgence, this revival. And I think every time a genre has a revival, this new alchemy springs up in that time of that revival.
I think what's really very difficult in that is that, and I've thought about this a lot, is that I certainly grew up in a time when technology in music was evolving very quickly in music itself, and there was a period of modern music which went from sort of like acoustic guitar, electric guitar, organ to like synth and like analog synth, and then analog synths went digital, and then we had the 80s with like drum machines and synths and sequencers and everything else. And we've kind of reached a point now where even though technology is still getting amazingly better and better and better, it's now kind of more finite tuning. It's not, nobody's going to bring out something now. I can't believe anyone's going to bring out something now which is going to be, right, here's the new thing that you play, and you've never seen anything like this, right?
Yeah, it's like, where do we go from here kind of thing.
Whereas, like, I remember the first time someone turned up at the house with like a DX7, for example, and it was like, wow.
Right, yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, it's like, and that suddenly like created this whole, spinning off of creativity, because it's like, I can make these noises now, it can go, woo, 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 and I can just press the finger there and there. So because of that, music kind of developed with that. But now it's all about sound separation and very nuanced little sounds in, if you think about people like Japanese House and 1975 and the production on those albums, where it's very, very, very nuanced. There's nothing big difference. But I think that's why a lot of artists along the road, as they, kind of tried to develop their musicality, do things like, you know, Paul Simon did it years ago with going over to Africa and doing Gracelands, and you know, you've seen Damon Albarn do it with Marley music and whatever. I think sometimes people try and go out into the world and find more native sounding things that are completely different, because you know there is nothing else new. So
yeah, I guess so. I think the reason why I resonate with country so much as well, though, is that, you know, whole it takes away all of that. I guess I took a long time to find places where I really felt I belonged in music, or where I could belong. And you know, all of those kind of, as soon as it would get, I find it can be, I think that, you know, I can really appreciate all different kinds of genre and all different kinds of art. You know, like, I love the world of mixing and the art of mixing. You know, Drea, who mixed my and produced my song, my recent song, you know, I love picking his brain around his art of mixing. I can really appreciate it as an art form. But for me, it's really about, I'm alive because of music, and it's not about,
it's not about trying to push the boundary with it too
not
much.
really, no, it's about
No.
being an emotional expression. You know, it's not, there's not really a kind of like, this is, you know, I'm going to be the best this and that and the other. It's like, I'm doing this because
I need to.
like, yeah, because this is it. Like, this isn't, it's not, I'm not doing this because I've got them, because I've got the means to, you know. It's like, this is the vision that, you know, staying with music, staying with that kind of, what it very much felt like a calling from a very young age, has gotten me through an unimaginable amount of things. So I'm here because of that, and I'm paying that forward. So to very, you know, astute and high academic musicians and stuff, they might go, what a load of tosh, but it's tough, you know.
Who cares?
What makes other people feel things, and I think we need that a lot. So
I agree. Now listen, I'd stay and talk all day, but I'm going to have to go and pick the kids up in a minute from school, because that's the kind of thing that I have to do, and I have to walk today as well, through the flooding that we've had down in the southwest. But just one quick one, just to finish with, because you said earlier, we talked about earlier the fact that you're catching up with yourself. So just kind of to finish, just wanted to know sort of, so what age are we at now? Without giving away your age, obviously, but where have you got to in your life in terms of your output now? Are you at your actual age, or are you still a bit younger than you, or you?
To be honest, I've never thought about it, but as soon as you asked that question, the number that I could see in my head was 17.
Right.
So
you've
that
got
makes a lot of sense.
2 years to go then.
Yeah, some years to go. We're halfway there. As a halfway point.
As Bon Jovi said, we're halfway there. We're living on a prayer. I love it. I think that might have to now be the title for this episode. There we go. How about that?
Or halfway there.
Living on a prayer. We're halfway there. Halfway there.
Totally
living on a prayer. We'll go with that two things together. Sophie, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you too, Graham. Yeah, it's been really lovely talking to you. Tangent with you for ages.
Absolutely. Now, folks, if you've never heard of Sophie before, this is why we do this. So this is the whole point of this. And we'd love you to actually discover some of her music now. So now that you've heard Sophie talking about her life and expressing how important it is that she makes this music, please go and discover it. Sophie, where should people start? Latest single or something else?
Well, yeah, so the latest single is going to be coming out end of March. I have an EP on all of the places, all streaming platforms, called To The Core. It came out in 2022. Healing in the Burn was the debut single from it. That's a lot of people seem to very, very much appreciate that song. There's a lot of healing in there.
Well, the thing is, so follow along now, connect with Sophie on Instagram, follow
Yeah.
along now, and give your support when the single comes out.
That'd
You
be
know,
nice.
and go and add it to a playlist, because that's the best thing. You know, add it to a
Totally.
playlist.
Yeah.
And if you see Sophie wherever she is in the UK, either go to see her live, or just put money in her hand, or buy her a coffee, whatever feels best, really.
Give me a hug.
Give her a hug, but give her a tenner at the same time. I'm just putting it out there, because you know, and I've said this many times, folks, is that music doesn't grow on trees, although you might think it does, or you might think it grows in microchips that live inside little black boxes in the corner of your room, but it doesn't. There's real people that make it, and it's expensive to do. So anything you can donate to that would be marvellous.
Bless you.
There we go. Until next time, you've been listening to the wonderful My Music with Sophie Rose, who was much better than me. And if you want to support this as well, we now have a community that you can join. I will be inviting Sophie to come in, and hopefully she will come and join us, along with lots of other musicians that have been on here who are already in that community as well. But if you'd like to do that, you can. It will cost you £1 a month, or £10 for the year. Well, how incredibly generous of me. And for that, you can learn all sorts of new skills as well in there. We've got lots of people teaching lots of skills on a daily basis. We've even got people doing body doubling sessions. If you don't know what that is, then go and look it up. It's not maybe what you think it is. Until next time, bye for now.